Alright, so moving on with the secondary hull, we got the nacelle pylons, and we got the completion. You can see the arboretum windows. Alright, let's start with the nacelle pylons. And let's see, are these glued together yet? Nope. Alright, so we got these. We'll put the nacelles aside because we'll do those later. Alright, so let's start by putting nacelle pylons together. Let's see, we've got plaster bonding. And let's see. There we are. So these two go together. And these two go together. So I like to fill in the little holes where the tabs are going to go in. I'll put a little bit on the sides as well. See, there's like a little, let's see, I gotta put a little bit of glue to try to keep this closed. Let's see, let's give that a clamp. Just to close that gap. All right, let's do this one. Opening, so I put a little bit of glue there, and we'll clamp that section. Just like that. And we'll give that a little while to dry. All right, moving on to the halves of the secondary hull. Let's see. It looks like these are glued. You can see where the arboretums are going to go. So that, let's see, that is that would be a little arboretums right there. So there are two slots right there that were kind of glued shut. So let's open these up so we can get the nacelles in, the nacelle pylons. Just like that. You can see it's pretty blocked. That's why it was impossible to get them in. All right, so the clamp held, so it's all set to go. So why don't we try to finagle it into the side. This will be the starboard side. It'll be in place. You can see there's a good solid connection right on that joint. Okay, so that's good. All right, so this one is glued. We'll let that set a bit, and we'll let that dry. Now what we're going to do with this section, we have to put the photon torpedo tubes in. There. I don't know if you can see that. So we'll glue everything into place, and then we're going to clamp it, just so it gets that nice and clean joint. All right, so let's give it some glue. And let's clamp this. So just like that. So we'll keep that clamped for a couple minutes. All right, let's check this one. And this one is nice and sealed. You can see all the joints are tightly fitted together. All right, let's do the same thing now for the port side. You can see the little slots where it's going to go in. All right, so let's go ahead and we can glue this. Do the same thing. I'll put a little bit of glue at the bottom because there's a little bit, it's a little bit separation. So we can go ahead and glue the seams now, the little tabs where it's on the inside. All right, let's take a look at this now. So that's looking pretty good. Got the photon torpedoes. All right, how is this going to go with the... You can see we're going to put it together before putting in the deflector dish, so that's good, because we can paint it before we put it in. All right, let's think about putting the whole thing together now. There. Now we can give a good coat of glue on the seams. Maybe if we put this on for, let's see, I don't want that to click into place. Just enough to kind of keep everything down. You can see where the deflector housing is going to go. All right, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put some extra glue on the seams. So we did this section already. We got this section done, and we're going to go ahead now and we're going to glue the deflector housing in. We're going to wait on that because we're going to paint it first, but then we're going to put it in. So why don't we do that right now? And the smooth part goes on top, and let's put it on. And you heard it click into place. So that's looking pretty good. What we gotta do now is we gotta just let this dry. So we'll let the clamp dry. What I want to do now is we're gonna paint. We're gonna paint the lightest version of the gray that I have is the gunship gray. So we're gonna put this gray, and then when we airbrush, we'll put just a little bit on the inside. We can touch the little grid lines that are in there with some black paint. And you can see the little ridges on the inside. What we'll do is, when this is dry, we'll put a little bit of the black on the lines of the ridges, and it'll make it come out just to show you that they're there. And we'll do the same thing for the nacelles. Where is that? Here they are. You can see that we'll do the same thing for these, but that'll be later on. Okay, so you can see the clamp held it together nicely, and the glue had a chance to dry. So what I think we're going to do now is we're going to prep it to airbrush. And you guys can see it's going to go just like that. But it's got this, we'll bend it forward. We're not going to use this yet. And the dish had a chance to dry. So I tell you what, let's put a little bit of detail in the dish right now. What I like to do is I like to use the felt marker. All right, so you don't want to put a ton, just enough to put a line to bring out the ridge. And then we'll put just a little splash of the black from the airbrush, and I think that'll do a good job and bring it out nicely. And it'll show that the deflector dish is dead. And we'll do the same thing with the side of the nacelles. We use a little bit of the project source. Okay, so this coat had a little time to dry. And again, we don't want to make it all shiny and pretty and brand new looking. We want to keep it looking a little bit rough. Some of the lines, remember we're going to do the damage that's on the side. I got to figure out how we're going to do that. You remember the phasers from the U.S.S. Reliant cut into the side, right at the base of the saucer pylons. I got to figure out how I'm going to do that. And I think for the rest of the damage from that, we'll use the paint gun. All right, let's put some more paint on. Let's put another coat. Remember, it's better to put a bunch of thin coats than one heavy, goopy, drippy coat. All right, so the second coat had a chance to dry. And what I like about this paint, it's a thinner kind of paint. And what you can see is it actually has like a more distressed look to it. It's not all bright and pretty. And this allows the black to come through a little bit. Because remember, she's traumatized. She's being destroyed. And she's in the midst of, well, her death. So she's not going to be all shiny and pretty and brand new. So I think I'm going to put on one final coat just to kind of even it out. Then we're going to let it dry overnight. And then we're going to think about detailing it up. We're going to put the aztecing on, and then we're going to do the damage. And you remember, on this side, there was a line cut into the ship, and I'm thinking about how we can do that. But for now, I think we're going to give it another coat, one last coat, just to kind of even it out. You can see there are spots where the black is bleeding through more than others, and I just want it even. All right, so everything has had a time to dry. Let me give you a little bit of an update. I put on the landing bay, the shuttle bay, and the Enterprise model that was black, it actually didn't have this. So luckily, the other model that was in there, I was able to steal the shuttle bay from that model. And I put a thin coat of paint on it. And the way the paint is right now, I like it's kind of distressed. Same thing when I put the ship together. You can see there are little imperfections, and we want that because don't forget, this isn't from Star Trek The Motion Picture where she's all pretty and brand new. she's going through a traumatic time. The whole primary hull blew apart, and the shock waves went through the whole ship. So we're looking to make her look as distressed as possible. Now, one thing I'm going to do now is this part of the nacelle pylon, they're actually duck egg blue in the front. And on the side of the saucer pylon, this is duck egg blue as well. Now, I don't know if the decals are gonna take care of that, so let's try to check them out. Okay, you can see it'll take the side where this wraps around, and over here you can see where that's going to go. So that'll be, the decals will take care of that, but they're not going to take care of the absolute front. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put just a coat of the duck egg blue in the front of the nacelle pylons. So let's put these aside for a minute. And let's see, I got some duck egg blue here. There we are. There. I don't know if you can actually tell the difference, but there is a difference. And again, we're not going to do a ton of it, just enough so it shows. Just enough to cover the absolute front, because don't forget the decals are going to wrap around on the top. But we wanted to do the front too, just to cover it. Okay, so that's good. We're going to put in the deflector dish, and we'll put in the arboretums. And just like that. The more progress we make on this model, the sadder and sadder it seems to be getting. Okay, so the deflector dish is not going to be coming on again. So that snaps in, so that's pretty secure. That's not going anywhere. Okay, so we'll do the arboretums. There are all kinds of tabs that are broken off on here. Because there should be tabs in the side of the hull where the arboretum gets snapped into place. And right now, they're gone. They're broken. I think maybe they had done that because he wanted to light the model. Okay, so we'll give that a little minute to dry and set, and what we're going to do is we're going to clean it off. We'll let everything dry, and then I'll show you, we're going to start to put on the decals. Okay, so what I did is I put some warm water, lukewarm water, and I put a drop of the dish soap, and I stirred it up. The dish soap is going to act as a humectant, and it'll be able to have the water saturate through the decals better. Alright, so let's see, where are the ones for the bottom of the ship? We've got the sides. Okay, so I got a dish rag, and I wet it with some hot water. And what we're going to do is we're going to actually start to smooth out And as we wash away the putty or the filler, we're going to leave the parts intact that are going to fill in the gaps. Just like that. There. I'll make sure it's all nice and... Alright, there we go. So now we're ready to start putting on the decals. Just like that. Get it nice and wet. And again, the humectant is going to actually allow the water to penetrate deeper. And we need 86. We're going to have our microsol and we're going to have our microset. Go on. So it's going to go just like that. All right. You can see it's starting to look pretty good. So we get the bottom. And what I think we're going to do now is we'll put the sides on. And again, she's going to be scorched up, and some of the damage is going to be showing on the side, so just like that. There. And that's looking pretty good. You can see the little port is lining up. Do the same thing. So this is looking pretty good. So how does that look? We've got the deflector dish housing almost enclosed. Looks pretty good. You get all the sides covered up. All the decals are on for the secondary hull part. And now, why don't we start doing the saucer section, or the saucer pylon. Yeah, that went on pretty smooth. Okay, these are going to take a little while, so why don't we soak them, get them nice and wet. All right. All right. This model is really going to benefit from the clear coat going on after we're done. So what we're going to do is we're going to totally wait for this to dry. And once it's all dry, we're going to be ready to move on, and we're going to start doing the damage on the port side from the U.S.S. Reliant, and we'll touch up some areas. But for now, we got to wait for her to dry. All right, so let's give you guys a little bit of an update. It had some time to dry. All of the microset dried, and it kind of shrink wrapped the decals onto the model. I did a little bit of an update. I painted the parts that are outside the deflector housing, and I put in a little bit of gray around the photon torpedo tubes. And other than that, she's ready to start doing the damage too. Okay, you guys remember in the Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, the U.S.S. Reliant attacked the Enterprise, and because it was a surprise attack, the Enterprise had her shields lowered. So when the Reliant fired phasers at these sections, they went right through the ship and they caused a lot of damage. There's a line that's going right across just before the docking port. That's all scarred, and it's actually cut right through. So what I'm thinking is if I use a knife and try to score it just a little bit to make it look like it did, and then we can kind of fill it in with paint. There. It's scored on the side. And there was scarring down this side. That's why there's a little bit of the putty that I used, the plastic putty. Well, when I put the micro set on, it kind of drew it out. But that's good because there is all damage along here as well. And let's see, there was damage in the back. On this side, there was damage on this side. Down back here. Now remember, this is just damage from the U.S.S. Reliant, from when she fought the Reliant in Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. So we're going to do that before we do the damage after the auto-destruct. So let's go ahead and we can fire up the paint gun. Let's do this section. And a little section over there. And there's a section on this side. And I think it was back there. There's more damage. And of course on the side. And do just a little blackening to the deflector dish. And the photon torpedo tubes. What we'll do is we'll blacken that just a bit. And you guys remember, after the explosion, everything got kind of streaked back. So we can do these little streaks. It was kind of like streaking along the nacelle pylons. You can see she's really distressed. In addition to the damage caused by the U.S.S. Reliant, we've got the damage that is caused by her falling into the orbit and burning up in the atmosphere. Again, that's kind of traumatizing to me because I love the Enterprise, so it's kind of sad doing this to her. It looks pretty good. Okay. Do the stitch marks on the back. You see the line over here, and the line that we scarred up onto the base of the saucer pylon. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. That looks good. I think we put her through enough. And a little bit of time to dry. And what we're going to do is we're going to put a clear coat after the model is finished. You can see the horrible damage that's done to her. All the damage on the side of the ship. Behind the photon torpedo tube, the gouge that's there. More damage from the U.S.S. Reliant, and we have the damage, of course, from going into orbit and the streaking. So this was the conclusion of the secondary hull. And what we'll do is, the next video, we're going to do the pylons, the nacelles, and then we'll attach them to the nacelle pylons, and we'll do the same thing. We'll paint the nacelles. We got to repaint the chiller grills, and then what we're going to do is we're going to damage them. Because there's specific damage to the nacelles as well. That was from the battle with the U.S.S. Reliant. And then the damage, of course, from her falling into orbit and burning up. But that's in the next video. And I thank you very much for watching. And I'll see you very soon with the next video.